China is trying to bring America to its knees. The Justice Department has for years required China Daily to disclose its activities semi-annually under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, FARA. One of China's main propaganda outlets has paid American newspapers nearly $19 million for advertising and printing expenses over the past 4 years, according to documents filed with the Justice Department. And nearly $6 million to the Wall Street Journal since November 2016, the records show. Its payments to the Wall Street Journal have been less than half their average amount since February 2020, the documents show. Both newspapers have published paid supplements that China Daily produces called China Watch. The inserts are designed to look like real news articles, though they often contain a pro-Beijing spin on contemporary news events. China Daily also paid for advertising in several other newspapers. The New York Times, $50,000. Foreign Policy, $240,000. The Des Moines Register, $34,600. NCQ Roll Call, $76,000. It spent a total of $11,002,628 on advertising in U.S. newspapers, and another $265,822 on advertising with Twitter. PBS stations that received millions in federal funds partnered with Chinese foreign agent on pro-Beijing film. The Chinese outlet paid the Los Angeles Times $657,523 for printing services. The Seattle Times, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the Chicago Tribune, the Houston Chronicle, and the Boston Globe are all listed as clients of China Daily. The Washington Post. China Daily has paid more than $4.6 million to the Washington Post. In 2013, Amazon CEO and billionaire Jeff Bezos purchased the Washington Post for $250 million cash. In January 2016, Bezos laid out a new business plan for the Post aimed at incorporating more technology. Bezos has long tried to expand Amazon in the Chinese market as well, saying Amazon is well positioned to serve. Bezos also backed a treaty between the United States and China allowed technology companies to increase business with China and provided a framework for US tech companies to invest more in the Chinese economy. After years of business in the Chinese market, Bezos' ties with China are now evident in the Washington Post's advertisement section. When you purchase a Washington Post subscription, it comes with an advertising supplement called China Watch. According to Mark Hemingway at The Federalist, the Post China Watch supplement is courtesy of China Daily, a Chinese state-run media organization. The Washington Post openly accepts money for advertisements from the CCP and distributes Chinese propaganda. Take Carlos Slim, the largest shareholder of the New York Times, who controls about a third of the board. His other ventures have very close ties to Chinese firms that are directly tied to the Chinese government. His Giant Motors is engaged in joint operations with China's JAC Motors to penetrate the Latin American market. This was an attempt to work around the Trump administration's aggressive trade policies. Mexican billionaire Carlos Slim owns 17.4% of the New York Times through the company's Class A shares. As the largest shareholder, his investment allows him to vote for approximately one-third of the company's board. Slim has regularly conducted business with Chinese companies with overt ties to the CCP. In 2017, Slim's Giant Motors joined ventures with China's JAC Motors and began manufacturing cars in Mexico to sell in the Latin America market. According to Forbes, the goal of selling to Latin America was to circumvent the Trump administration's trade policies aimed at protecting American jobs, a move that benefited the Beijing in the Chinese-American trade wars. According to Bloomberg Law, Slim's company America Movil is teaming up with CCP telecommunication giant Huawei Technologies to pitch a 5G pilot project to the Colombian government this year. Huawei is actively working to undermine American security interests by overturning legislation in the United States that bans the use of Huawei's 5G network. CNN is owned and operated by Warner Media. Warner Media LLC is an American multinational mass media and entertainment conglomerate corporation owned by AT&T. It is headquartered in New York City, which has significant financial and institutional ties to the CCP. In June 2013, Warner Media announced it had forged a partnership with a Chinese investment fund to the tune of $50 million. The funding would directly invest in the China Media Capital, a media company with oversight from the Chinese Communist Party, meaning it is subject to censorship and other demands to push Chinese propaganda. CNN has a $50 million investment deal with the People's Republic of China. Specifically, this is an investment in China Media Capital, a private company, inasmuch as such things exist in the People's Republic of China, subject to the censorship of the Chinese government. It is worth remembering how CNN fawned over the Chinese reaction to the Wuhan coronavirus in the early days of the pandemic. Warner Media considers China a partner in their economic and cinematic ventures. Increasing our global presence is one of Time Warner's strategic priorities, and China is one of the most attractive territories in which we operate, but it's complex. This alliance will give all our businesses a savvy and accomplished partner, said Warner Media Chairman and Chief Executive Jeff Bix. CNN Worldwide President Jeff Zucker also has a connection with China. According to CNN, Zucker works internally with Turner Sports and is responsible for programming acquisitions, production, marketing, league relations, and sports advertisement sales. Turner Sports works directly with the NBA to broadcast games in China, meaning Zucker has ample business in the Middle Kingdom, where American businessmen seek to keep the CCP happy so the money keeps rolling. National Broadcasting Company, NBC. What's more, CMC Partners, an investment group with direct technological and financial oversight from Beijing, now has full ownership of Oriental DreamWorks, formerly owned by NBC Universal. ESPN, another ABC property, told staff to not disparage the communist regime and, where possible, to avoid the topic entirely. This was during the fracas over an NBA coach's criticism of the Chinese regime, American media properties effectively siding with China over America. ESPN, entity of ABC, was caught doing the bidding of the Chinese government in October 2019, when the NBA controversially refused to denounce the CCP for financial benefit. ESPN stood with the NBA to keep financial revenue on track for the 2019 fiscal year. ESPN bowed to the Chinese government for profit motives when the network's senior news director reportedly instructed staff to avoid discussing Chinese politics if they were asked about Chinese politics or Daryl Morey's pro-Hong Kong tweet. In November 2010, NBC signed an agreement with China's state-run media organization, Xinhua, to establish a business cooperation in international broadcast news. This was the latest market expansion by the CCP into American media. Both MSNBC and NBC are owned by NBC Universal, who have a partnership with China's state-run media, Xinhua, to cooperate on international news. The United States State Department has identified Xinhua as foreign missions, effectively Chinese propaganda outfits with no independence from the Chinese government. Since the signing of the business deal, the U.S. State Department identified Xinhua and 5 other Chinese state-run media organizations as foreign missions. They have been identified as direct CCP operations and do not function as independent news outlets. In 2015, NBC Universal agreed to license the Chinese tech company Baidu's new video network platform iQIYI, which is listed on the Nasdaq and, thanks to NBC, advertises in Times Square in New York City. Finally, CMC Capital Partners, a Beijing investment group with financial and technological oversight from the CCP, acquired full ownership of NBC Universal's Oriental DreamWorks, according to The Hollywood Reporter. NBC Universal gained a 45% stake for a steep $3.8 billion. ABC. The most obvious business ties between the American broadcast company, ABC, and China are through their ventures with Walt Disney and ESPN. Both companies have deep-rooted financial stakes in the Chinese economy controlled by the CCP. In November 2009, The Chinese government approved plans to create a Disney World theme park in Shanghai. The project cost approximately $3.6 trillion, with financial help from several large Chinese state-owned enterprises. After construction was completed, Disney only retained 43% of the property, while the Communist Party-controlled Shanghai Xinyi Group took the remaining 57%. According to Rawley, American companies establish these financial ties with Chinese companies to gain access to China's massive consumer market of 1.4 billion people. ABC subsidiaries such as ESPN and ABC News need to appease the CCP, whether it be via positive news coverage or complying with cybersecurity laws, to keep their programs on Chinese screens and thus make money in the Chinese market. ABC arguably has the strongest ties with the Chinese economy. The Chinese government and state-owned enterprises provided significant support for the $3.6 trillion cost of building a Disney World in Shanghai. Senator Ted Cruz introduced legislation which cuts off Department of Defense assistance to any U.S. movie studio that allows China to censor their content. The bill is called the Stopping Censorship, Restoring Integrity, Protecting Talkies Act. Hollywood films commonly work with the Pentagon and Defense Department to use American assets for props such as jets, tanks, and naval bases. Cruz's script legislation would only allow the Defense Department to contract with companies that do not allow China to censor their content. These same organizations work directly with ABC News abroad. According to veteran ABC correspondent David Wright, ABC and its affiliates are inextricably linked. In an investigative report by Project Veritas, Wright admitted ABC was a profit center, not a beacon of truthful journalism. What benefits ABC's company is bending a knee to the CCP in exchange for more money, despite the price it puts on journalists' ability to report truth and hold those in power to account.